perpetual questions about Joe's character and associations. Now, if you had asked Joe what his greatest talent was, he probably would have responded that it was his ability to bring people together. I would maintain that that ability was facilitated by Joe's instinctive, intuitive awareness of what people wanted and when. And I'm guessing that this awareness was probably finely honed from his days as a teenage waiter in New York City, serving as a sort of concierge for the desires of wealthy older men. From a very young age, Joe's job had been to get you exactly what it is that you wanted, and without batting an eye. This led to him being extremely non-judgmental and also non-racist. He didn't care what color you were as long as the money in your pockets was green. One of the after effects of the First World War among the lost generation was a desire to break all taboos, and commingling amongst black and white, particularly amongst Americans, was perhaps the greatest taboo and the greatest thrill of them all. And nowhere was this more symbolized than through the relatively new art form called jazz. The world, and particularly France, had gone crazy for jazz, and Zelli not only picked up on the trend, but made it his own. Zelli's Royal Box Band read like a who's who of black jazz musicians of the era, and contained some extremely interesting, complicated characters as well. Probably the most famous of these was the temperamental genius Sidney Bechet. The French called him Le Dieu, the God, who, like Prince, could play every instrument on a recording, wrote jazz standards and symphonies, and was eventually deported from France for trying to shoot another musician who had criticized Bechet's playing. "Sidney Bechet never plays the wrong chord," he wrote in his autobiography. That may go down as the last musician with enough courage to publicly criticize Bechet's playing. Another great character in Zelli's band was bandleader Leslie Hutchinson, who was as renowned at the time for his myriad sexual conquests as for his musical talents. Perhaps the most scandalous of these conquests was his long-running affair with the then-married Lady Edwina Mountbatten, wife of Lord Mountbatten. Hutch and Edwina were known for their exhibitionistic tendencies, making love at parties and in clubs. It is also rumored that pansexual Hudson also carried on an affair with the aforementioned Cole Porter, who chronicled their relationship in songs like Anything Goes. But perhaps the most monumental character in Zelli's band, and a man whose enormous significance has only become clear to historians over the past few years, was the band's drummer and manager, Eugene Bullard. Bullard had fled his home in Columbus, Georgia, to Europe at age 15 after witnessing several lynchings. His feelings were that it was only a matter of time before it would happen to him, and that he would never be able to optimize his own talents in the U.S. He was right in every respect. It was in France that he became first a championship boxer and then one of the most decorated fighter pilots of World War I. His plane read, "All blood runs red," and the words couldn't have been more true, because courage has no color. Somewhere along the line, he made the acquaintance of Joe Zelli, and ironically enough, it was the war hero Bullard who was able to arrange Zelli's unprecedented midnight to dawn opening hours with the French government. But that's not all he arranged. Bullard managed the floor of Zelli's restaurant. He was responsible for all personnel in the band, hiring and firing, and he was perceived to be the go-to authority and father figure for every American musician, black or white, in Paris at the time. Historians are still trying to figure out the depth of Eugene Bullard's relationship with Joe Zelli. They appeared to be best friends and business partners. It was an unprecedented kind of partnership for a black and a white to have in the 1920s. But if Zelli's relationship with Bullard still remains mysterious, it was nothing compared to his relationship with this person, Joe's wife, Bertha Zelli, aka Bertha Lind, or Bertha Benz. The passage of time has blurred the lines as to whether this was more of a romantic or criminal partnership.